Hey guys, how are you? Yeah, sniper in the room. Mr. Reset Sniper, Mr. Crypto Sniper, and the Market Sniper. Interesting little chat for you today. A couple of quick thoughts. I was out and about, so I thought, well, what the hell? Just while I'm parked up, get some thoughts up and get something fresh up to you. So here's something that's really interesting. I stayed in a country, I lived in a country. It's what's called an emerging country. I remember the currency. I went away for 20 years and then I revisit for a short period to that same country. And here's what you notice. This is what you notice when you've been someplace before and you return 20 years. Instead of having the continuous stream and seeing things change ever so slowly, you have a snapshot break. And you have a cut in the movie for a while, and then the movie restarts. And at that point, you can see how much has truly changed in a single take. Whilst if you're permanently in that hot water and you're being slowly boiled, you don't realize that it's gone from 20 degrees the water to 32 degrees, and now it's heading for 60 degrees and you're being boiled. So this is the currency, this particular country, and I've had this same effect on a number of trips that I've done. This particular currency is the Rand that I'm visiting and that I'll be departing from. Now, when I used to live here, this that I'm holding in my hand was a substantial amount of money. In fact, rarely did you see one of these notes. They were known as a leopard, and I'm going to peel one off for you. A leopard is the rarest of African creatures, and a 200 Rand note was the rarest of notes. There's our cat. This one now has Mr. Mandela on the other side. They had this very distinctive orange. You would spot them a mile off, and they were rare as bees' knees. And they largely came out kind of like how you'd think of a 500 euro note. It was the biggest denomination by far. Even hundreds were rare. And they were colored in a way that, you know, you rarely saw them, and if you saw one you would know it. So particularly with reference to the dollar, where they're all very much the same color, the African currencies here, a buffalo was 100 Rand. That was the big daddy. Again, Mr. Mandela on this side, they didn't always have him, but before that was the old biggest denomination. You had a buffalo and then you had a leopard. You're talking about the big ass five here, and rarity par excellence. So I felt flush if I was a young man with 100 Rand in my pocket. I truly felt flush. You know, there were things you could buy with that. Now just to get basic things in, little check-in, and this is actually very good value, by the way. Basic little check-in with a doctor, a little consult, a couple of aches and pains, what's going on, give me a cream for this or something for that, a normal consult with a doctor. Now in the past, maybe a very detailed one with lots of issues, you might get up to, you know, 50 Rand, 75 Rand, and I'm talking 25-30 years ago now. Nowadays, very good value, distinctly good value, particularly with reference to dollars. 600 Rand, 3 leopards to have a chat for 25 minutes with a doctor about any minor aches and pains, whether you need to see a physiotherapist, what you need to do for minor things, a visit to pay. Now, I don't take medical aids, I don't take insurances. I earn my own money and I pay my own way on the spot. I don't want bills, I don't want invoices, I don't want paper anywhere. I'm also mobile. This is not my permanent residence, etc., etc. So everywhere I go, I pay on the spot. 600 Rand. It's incredible value in dollar terms, because guess what? The Rand is virtually 20 to the dollar. It's certainly 20 to the euro. Let me say the euro. It's certainly 20 to the euro. So in fact, you paid 30 euro to see a highly qualified specialist of many years of experience. So it's incredibly good value. The service, I haven't been overcharged for the service I've got. But what that currency meant, what that currency used to mean, is an absolute fortune. My father, head of the most important scientific industrial research center when he worked for the parastatal, his salary was 600 Rand, and he was director. He had 3 buildings under him. his salary was 600 rand. It was a little bit over at one point. Now I'm talking when I was a little kid. I was 5-6 years old. I got it out of them. Look, it wasn't what he finished on, obviously, but the concept of devaluation and how this fiat, I've got a fistful of notes here, you know, this is actually nothing special in terms of any form of buying power anymore. It's absolutely got very low buying power, especially when you divide it into, and I get a dollar equivalent, I've probably got a couple of $100 in my hand right now, buying power's worth. And this is inflation and this is fiat. This is the fiat world, and the notes are becoming less and less significant, and it's one of the ways they have natural limits. So put my proper way, they have natural limits by devaluing the currency and not increasing the note standard. It forces you more into the electronic realm. So actually more and more things now you pay online, less and less things you pay in cash. I insisted today to pay in cash. I paid cash. That's how I wanted to pay. COVID, screw your COVID, go sanitize the notes if you want. You'd get COVID from my card if I had it. I paid cash, and that's how I wanted it. I also drew a bit of cash just prior to when I heard there was lockdown and the stuff was coming, because I thought they might do the bank run on us, and then people would be caught without. Don't be caught without cash. I'm just highlighting the fact that cash is, you need so much to do such little things now, and it's been inflated away, its relevance. It's now become petty cash. It's what you call in a business, all your cash is petty cash. Even a fistful of notes is petty cash now, because they've inflated away the relevance and everything is online paid. If you're sending thousands of dollars, most of the time, how many times are you paying that with cash? Never. You're paying it on your card and you're paying it on this. Cash's relevance is being whittled away, and the big point that I'm making, you see more the effect of inflation and printing. Where did all these orange 200 Leopards, that was the rarest notes, come from? Well, they've been printed up in recent times. They've been printed up in recent times. Your control structure has got the game under wraps. They have, in a central bank, the power to create rands, dollars, and every other currency. And I can show you the exact same with Turkish lira and Mexican pesos, having recently been in both those countries. And I've got the polymer versions of Turkish lira made recently, and the buying power is awful. And the fistfuls of notes. Buying power is awful. We're already well on the way to the Weimar Republic. Wheelbarrows of cash. The only difference is in Weimar they didn't have the same online currency that you can purchase and credits in the banking system, and that is where you're getting kettled into, the kettling of your money into a banking system. And the banks can fail, the banks can bail in, the government can by decree tax you, do anything they want, and you're to avoid this kettling of your money, because your cash is being made worthless and the note size are actually not being increased at the rate at which it's devaluing. Remember, if they have a true inflation of between 5 and 10%, and they're telling you it's somewhere between 2 and 3% because they're measuring it in a determined way to actually make it look less than what it is, and your coffee pouches are getting slightly smaller even though they're going up 10%, etc. They pass some of that cost in sleight of hand and deception, and reweighting the basket, you know, putting in lesser value items in there than you need, than previously were included, and saying no, a Netflix entertainment thing is now the substitute for going to the cinema, etc., on a monthly basis, etc., etc., and by hook and crook making all forms of natural comparison from one era to another no longer feasible. It's all deception. The currency that you have, that is cash, is getting more and more trivialized. It is petty cash, like a business is petty cash now. You used to pay cash for big items. You don't pay cash for big items anymore. It's tough to do. Otherwise, you carry rolls of cash. Before I paid for a few things with cash, I actually had a roll of rands that was 2 or 3 times wider than that, and still it's not a significant sum. And I paid for some shopping, and I paid for this and that, and etc. with cash. And the problem is the amount you have to carry. and the inconvenience of it all. And of course now it's the spreader of COVID virus, although your card that you keep handing over and touching as well and goes backwards and forwards isn't, well, it still gets passed around plenty. Anyway, so the whole point is there is definitely inflation and printing of money all over the world. It's more easy to spot in the emerging nations, but trust me, as dollar and euro and pound versions, I can guarantee you it's still there. Your fact that you are continuously in one place and you do not have a landmark event or note or feeling or understanding at one given point that you later return to after a substantial period stops you from recognizing the fact that there is a slow frog boiling process here where cash is being allowed to die slowly in its significance and for what you can pay for it, and also in terms of how you can use it, and it's being framed as this great evil that exists that needs to be moved out. So they're definitely killing cash. There's definitely a proliferation of cash in an inflationary sense. The value denominations are not being increased. You're having to carry more notes to achieve the same simple purchases, and this is actually by intent. So cash will be killed. I still think you should hoard it in case of, in your respective country, in case of banking failure, where they reduce how much you can get, and then online access to banking funding also could come under duress. But you should do all of those things, but also recognize the natural game and recognize that banks are where they will kettle your real wealth, where they will pass on, oh, all these events occurred, solidarity, we all have to be in this together, I know this is hard for you, but everyone is taking the pain, we need to do this, otherwise we can't have XYZ, or we can't do this, we can't respond to COVID, we all need to play the game for one. What they mean is sacrifice for you, proliferation of the political system and the banker printing debt inflationary game. That's at the crux of it all. And every time I deal or go to another country and I have to hold fists full of worthless notes, I realize how the inflationary game is part of it all. It's part of putting you on the wrong side of a compound interest equation. The money lenders, the money printers will proliferate. They seek reasons to proliferate. In other words, their game is to create tragedies, pandemics, create crises, so that they can intervene to save you from pain by printing more money that then largely gets sent to their own special causes and the people who gave them power in billions for here and there. I mean, the Kennedy Association for the Democrats, etc. By the way, there's a YouTube going around that Trump's big bailout, that was the biggest bailout, all of this had been agreed and negotiated in 2019 prior to the pandemic. You ever wonder how quick that came out, given that you have this bipartisan agreement that has to be reached, where the Democrats and the Republicans are so in each other's face? Well, the Democrats had the Kennedy Association and this association and all sorts of things, nothing to do with disease, all receiving money, and the Republicans had their pet projects all receiving money, and this was all agreed, and they printing and giving to their special causes money that is dilution of you, and then they send you a $1,200 check and say, in America, you got some, be grateful, you got some, we thought of you. 1 month, one $1,200 check, and they've actually doubled the amount of circulation, dollars in circulation. How the hell do you square that circle? They've cut all the money you currently own in half, given large parts of that. They're going to buy junk bonds. The guys are laughing at an amazing one, Stuff Your Puts, J. Powell, because I always refer to this because of my HYG puts. That debt should be worthless. They are using your money to buy junk bond debt. That to me is the most bizarre of them all. And I thought that there was risk and possibility that they'll do anything to shore up, but I thought they'd at least let the dodgiest crap go. No, ETFs of high yield debt, we're backing that, we're standing behind that as well. They're diluting your currency. to hold up something that should be allowed to die and telling you got your cut because you got given $1,200 once. And they're going to print more, and they're going to print more and give it to more institutions and more megacorps and do more government contracts with Amazon and all the unicorns, and you're wondering why all the wealth ends up in the one hands. The game is to hollow out the Gini curve. That is the game. Everybody goes into this smarter than the Fed supremacist mode. Oh, they're such idiots. They're so incompetent. Why are they doing this? I would know better. I could do this. You're being fooled, mate. You're being fooled. They want you to think that you're smarter than them. They're running the game. They've had a plan in place for so long. Right now, they look a whole bunch smarter than you. You're barely discovering the full extent of their game. They want to look like incompetent bureaucrats that keep bundling and making mistakes that end up leading to your wealth being hollowed out at the expense of corporates getting a major gain at your expense. That is their game. And they want to look like the academics that have studied this and that and are putting forward models and theories that don't seem to work. And every time they print, the velocity of money goes down because you're getting poorer, you're spending less, you're passing it around less. And the people who are getting what they print are the big corporate oligarchical companies that are sitting on it and refilling their balance sheet holes and all other forms. And that money's not bleeding into Main Street. It's sitting in hedge funds. It's sitting in buybacks of stock, etc., to pump and goose the stock market, the only thing that still technically looks alive in this crazy environment. That is the game. That is the game. And it's their job to make you think that they're working for you, when in actual fact they're part of a private bank, a cartel of private banks. It's not federal and it's not a reserve. It's not even a government institution. It is a private oligarchical corporatocracy that was shoehorned in 1913, and they're shuffling all the chips so that they will eventually own all the assets, including your home, and making you a tenant in your own home. That's the deal, guys. That's the deal. And they want you to think that they're just incompetently trying to save you, really doing a real bad job. And you're smarter and you can criticize and blah, 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 blah. They're serving their masters and they're doing it brilliantly. You should see it for what it is. It's all part of the plan, the hollowing out. And there will no longer be middle class if you don't build your wealth. By the way, links below if you want to know where to invest and do. A lot of it I've given for free, but there'll be new fresh trades. We've just issued an alert on both our metals and BTC. Speculative, not necessarily trading, is not for everybody. Rada, all that good stuff. But if you want to be part of that, go in there. But that's not the point of this video. If you aren't building wealth in a way that it can't be destroyed and taking many emergency precautions for what is going to be an exceptional time where they will be hollowing out many of us in many of the key places, you're going to end up a busted flush. That's it. And the slow game of coming back 20 years later and seeing an emerging currency now, there is no rarity to the biggest note. That part is over. We're in the quickening. You're in the quickening right here, right now. You're in the quickening and it's going down. It's flipping going down and it's accelerating. The supremacist Talmudists want their Messiah now, their Messiah now. It's a quickening. It's a quickening, boy. They have run out of patience. They are dashing. They're broken cover now. They're easy to be seen. And by the way, I've got to kill this one gremlin that everybody hangs on to. That, oh, but Trump and QAnon and this guy and that guy have seen through their plan and they're working for you and they're asking questions. Here, Trump has written a snotty letter to the World Health Organization. He's not going to fund it anymore. As soon as he pulls his checkbook away, China just fills it. This is a game that runs across all nations. The central banker, creator of money, is the same scammers. You're dealing with a world in different nation states that are all run by the scammers and they all know each other's scam because they're doing it to their own citizens, and the whole world needs to be pulled together. So who will always be funded? They're not going without funding with Trump pulled. And you know, some guys will say, he's working for us, he's refusing to do it. Someone else has just filled his place. They're still going to do their key agenda, and in 4 years' time it won't be Trump anymore. He's not really working for you. He's one, as a billionaire, he's donated the most. One of the most is one of those Zionaires that has donated the most amount of money to Israel. He gave them Jerusalem and gave them the Golan Heights, part of Syrian territory, an international city of many religions, Arab and Christian. It's been given away. They're squeezing the churches out and upping their rents. They're getting them off the land, man. It's over. And Trump is helping them. This is your AIPAC complete vassal of Israel state. That is the money lenders of the world. And they're all playing the game. And they're going to bring it down. So you've got to make sure you've looked after your wealth in all the best places, that you've built it during this phase when it's absolutely crazy days, and there will be opportunities. But at the same time, never has there been more hazards and never has there been as many opportunities. Okay, anyway. That's the observations of my mind as I sit here with fistful of notes. Fistful of notes that don't buy near as much. The wheelbarrow era is coming for that. Only problem is we'll never get to that amount of cash because cash has been wound down in its significance and relevance as a payment mechanism. In some countries it's 7%, some it's 3%, some it's less than 1% of all money. So you are kettled in the financial system. How are you going to play it? When they start coming with their bail-ins and their takedowns, you've got to make sure that you're utilizing all the key things I've highlighted in other YouTubes, and you've got to build your net worth in those binary digits and move them into the safest places as part of that. And that's what we discuss in our community. Grab the free mini series below and everything else. Thanks for following, liking and sharing, and I'll catch you later.